Thank you for joining us tonight for our D211 Virtual Career Expo. My name is Besa Sadiku, and I'm the career advisor for Fremd High School. Also here with us tonight is Ms. Liliana Pertl, the Student Services Career Counselor for Schaumburg High School. We will be moderating the evening session.
Hello, I am Liliana Pertl, as Ms. Saduko has mentioned, and I am the career counselor at Schaumburg High School, and I will be helping with today's session. Thank you for being here.
Before we get started, if everyone viewing from home could please check the attendance link that we dropped in the chat bar. It will take you to a quick survey so we know who is joining us tonight. We really appreciate your help with this. Tonight, we have a wonderful group of speakers that will be discussing their careers in government and public administration and law, public safety, correction, and security. During the presentation, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, please drop them in the chat or a Q&A box. There will be a brief Q&A session after each speaker has had the chance to present. We will be asking our panelists the questions that you send us. Our speakers tonight are Mrs. Tracy Callahan from Callahan and Hockmeyer, Ms. Jenna Verdell from Schaumburg Fire Department, Mr. Tom Morrison from Illinois House of Representatives for District 54, and Mr. Clayton Black from Village of Schaumburg. Without any further delay, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mrs. Callahan.
Thank you. I'm Tracy Callahan. I'm an attorney, and I've been an attorney for 20 years. Can't believe when I say that sometimes I don't feel like I'm that old, but I guess I am. I'm a graduate of District 211. I went to Schaumburg High School. My husband and I both did. My husband is a firefighter locally in the community. He's also been on his department for over 20 years. So we are local residents. We live in the Fremd district and we have kids in school. My son is a junior in high school. He goes to Palatine. And then I have another son who is a third grader at Marion Jordan. I own my own law firm in Palatine. Prior to owning my own law firm with my law partner, I was a state's attorney. And then once I left the state's attorney's office in Cook County, I was doing some criminal defense work and family law. And now I exclusively practice domestic relations, which encompasses all areas of family law, like parentage, child custody, divorce, child support, and then some post-decree issues, things like college expenses and things of that nature. As I mentioned, my office is located in Palatine, but I do practice in 5 different counties. So I'm certainly busy traveling all over. Although lately we have been on Zoom. So court has been on Zoom for the last 2 years. I have not physically been in a courtroom in 2 years. It feels very strange to say that, but it allows people to still have access to justice and access to the court system, which is very important in order to keep things moving forward for people. So I did attend, like I said, I attended Schaumburg High School. From there, I went to Loyola University in Chicago. And then I attended the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana for law school. So that's me. I'm happy to answer any questions when they're appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your career information, Mrs. Callahan. I would like to move to our next panelist, Mrs. Jenna Verdell from Schaumburg Fire Department.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jenna Wardell. I'm a firefighter, lieutenant paramedic with the Schaumburg Fire Department. Basically, I've been here with Schaumburg for coming up on 11 years this March, which has been an incredible experience. I love the Schaumburg Fire Department. I love this area. I also know Tracy and I know her husband. They're fabulous. Just kind of a small world, you know, public servants and stuff like that. I've been with this department, like I said, 11 years. I teach at a fire academy called NIPSTA. It's a training facility up in Glenview. I've been teaching there also for about 11 years. I teach physical fitness and general fire academy and things like that. When I started with Schaumburg, I also started a charity for cancer called the Pink Tie Fireman's Ball. Essentially, it's just an evening ball that raises money for cancer research, cancer, basically different cancer foundations from within the community. And then we also ship out to the Cancer Research Institute in New York, strictly for research-based funding. Aside from that, I currently live with my wife and my newly adopted son, Maverick, in Elk Grove Village. So we're super local. We're basically in Schaumburg. We're right across the border. Aside from that, I do triathlons, marathons, Ironmans. I played college basketball at University of North Dakota. And that's basically where I'm at right now. I'm happy to be here and happy to answer any questions for you guys. Thanks.
Thank you for your service, Jenna, and thank you for sharing your career information with us. I would like to introduce Mr. Tom Morrison. Mr. Morrison, thank you so much for being with us tonight. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, you can hear me okay? Great. All right. Well, I'm Tom Morrison. I'm in the Illinois General Assembly. I'm one of 118 state representatives. There's 59 state senators. I live in Palatine, and my district covers about 107,000 residents, primarily Palatine, but we've also got portions of surrounding communities like Inverness, Hoffman Estates. And as part of my job, I travel to Springfield about 50 to 75 days a year when we're in our regular legislative session, and we discuss and we vote on state laws and policies, budget issues involving state government, education spending, transportation, human services, public safety, a lot of different topics, anything that's state related as opposed to Washington, D.C., which is all federal. The rest of the time, my staff and I, we provide constituent services for our residents. So if a resident or a business or maybe even local government within my area, if they're having some issue or problem with state government, then they can come to us and we'll gladly help them get to the right person or just try to advocate for them to resolve their problem if possible. I have, my education includes a bachelor's degree in history. I've had a minor in communications. And career-wise and volunteer-wise, I've done a lot of different things. It's not been a normal career path, but I'll say it's been a huge help to me in this position because of the diversity of issues that we cover. But my parents were small business owners. They owned a mom and pop print shop. And I think that helped prepare me to just do whatever we had to do to function, survive, live. I've also been in radio and television. I did news for a while. I taught fifth grade for 6 years. I ran a disaster cleanup company for 6 years, and now I've been in office for 12 years. So like I said, I've done a lot of different things, but when I talk to students and community members about what the General Assembly is supposed to be, you're supposed to have a really broad range of perspectives and experiences because we're making laws that apply to everyone in the state. And so, just having that input is really, really helpful. In terms of personality traits, it helps to be outgoing. You should genuinely like people. It helps to be a good communicator, either written, spoken, or both. You can't be afraid of crowds because you're involving yourself with a lot of different people. I will tell you though that I still get butterflies sometimes speaking in public, but it does get easier over time. And you should have a broad array of interests because, like I said a minute ago, we cover all kinds of different issues from agriculture to criminal, civil law, commerce, energy, environmental issues, education issues, insurance, healthcare, housing, human services, tax policy, tourism, transportation. It's a ton of different topics that we cover in state government. So having a broad interest is great. And it also really is helpful if you have a specialty area of knowledge so that you become that go-to expert or maybe a champion of a certain cause within the realm of state politics. But back to personality traits, it helps to be a good listener, a good problem solver. It helps to have patience. Sometimes the wheels of government move very slowly. You should have perseverance because sometimes conditions are rough or people are critical. So having a level head, a thick skin, those are really, really important personality traits. And then also just remembering that sometimes issues, opposing sides, they can get very, very heated. So just being measured in your responses and your interactions. Remember, you're supposed to be representing a broad array of people. Be a bridge builder because it's interesting. Sometimes on different topics, you might be opposed to one individual or a group on one issue, and then all of a sudden on another issue, you're friends and you're trying to work together to get something done. So just being a bridge builder is really important. Having a flexible schedule, being willing to work long hours potentially, during some seasons like legislative session, we might start in the morning and go well past midnight, and election season can be crazy too. It can be a marathon and a sprint. So having mental and physical stamina is really important. And then as just I wrap up here, professional advice, I think, is just to read extensively, absorb what's happening from a variety of sources, not just the ones that you agree with, because you really want a full picture, or the fullest that you can possibly create, so you understand an issue from all different angles. That way you're actually helping to solve a problem rather than accidentally creating a new one because you didn't consider unintended consequences. So being a good listener, being a servant to others, we really need honest, honorable people, visionary people to serve in government at all levels, and not just in elected office, but also behind the scenes. So anyway, thanks for having me on, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for sharing your career information with us, Mr. Morrison. For our guests watching from home, don't forget that you can submit your questions at any time in the Q&A tab. Now it's time to hear from Mr. Black from the village of Schaumburg.
Thank you. So my name is Clayton Black. I'm the assistant to the village manager for the village of Schaumburg. The village of Schaumburg is one of many units of local government that serve Schaumburg and its residents. These include the Park District, the School District, the Library District, Schaumburg Township. So we're just one of many units of government that serve our residents locally. In Schaumburg, we have an elected mayor and a board of trustees, and they appoint, excuse me, a trained professional, the village manager, to run the day-to-day operation of the village. So I work for him, and he's in charge of basically managing department heads, maintaining facilities, keeping our roads safe, fire safety, and ensuring clean water. So basically, ultimately, all day-to-day activities in the village of Schaumburg are under his responsibility. I'm one of about 600 employees at the village of Schaumburg. My coworkers include police officers, firefighters, finance professionals, community planners, social media experts, video technicians, IT developers, HR professionals, engineers. The list goes on and on with the type of people that work at the village. And I'm very fortunate that I work in the manager's office. So at least in some capacity, I get to work with each of these professionals in some way on a pretty regular basis. In terms of my educational pathway, after high school, I went to Southern Illinois University, got my bachelor's degree in political science. My intention was always to become a lawyer and kind of follow that path. But after getting that degree, I realized I had an interest in a lot of different facets of local government. So after a couple of years of working around state government in Springfield, I pursued my master's in public administration from Northern Illinois University. I was very fortunate that my first professor in that program was the village manager of Hoffman Estates. And he sought me out and actually offered me my first professional local government position. I'm from Southern Illinois originally, and we don't have a whole lot of professional local governments down in Springfield. So this was kind of a new career that I wasn't actually aware of whenever I went off to basically my entire 4 years of undergraduate study. Fortunately, after a couple of years of working in Hoffman Estates, I was able to get my current position. So in terms of personality traits that are needed in this field, I'm going to name just a couple. Number one, I would say credibility. Myself and our village manager, we're not experts in any one thing, but rather generalists in a lot of things. And so whenever you're in the room with a lot of very skilled professionals who specialize in something, you have to be credible, you have to provide leadership, earn their trust, and provide direction. Not always easy because they look at you and realize that you may not know everything about what they do. So you have to make sure you hire the right people and trust them to get the job done right. And number two, I would say adaptive. Profession presents many unique challenges on a pretty day-to-day basis. You follow the news over the last couple of years in Schaumburg, we've had political protests. Some may remember the time that the car drove through Woodfield Mall. We've been building a fun, new and exciting area up in 90 North around the Top Golf area. And not to mention COVID and the daily challenges it has presented to us, from restaurant closures, public health concerns, and closure of businesses on and off over the last couple of years. So requires us to be adaptive. And it's the exciting part of the job, but it's also the most challenging part of it. In terms of professional advice to share with the students, as you go up to college and begin going to networking type events and meeting people and adults who do different things, don't be afraid to go up to them and ask them what they do. So I'm one of the most introvert people you'll ever meet. I never did that when I was in school. But fortunately, I met a lot of the right people along the way who introduced me to things that I didn't know about. So don't be afraid to just go up to people and ask them what they do. People love to talk about what they do. So that would be the one piece of career advice that I would provide the students on the call today.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask some questions and then we're just going to go in the order since we have a little bit of time, the order that you spoke, so we can, all of us can have a listen to your responses. I guess the first one, some of you've answered it a little bit. What do you enjoy most about your job, your current job right now?
So am I answering first?
Yes,
Lily?
please.
Okay. What do I enjoy most? I enjoy helping people. That's probably what I enjoy the most, is helping people problem solve. Being a family law attorney, I'm dealing with a lot of clients who are in difficult times in their life. Maybe they're getting a divorce, or maybe they're trying to figure out how to co-parent a child together and things of that nature. So my area of law touches on everything that's important to people: their jobs, their families, their homes, their retirement, their bank accounts, their children. I mean, everything. So for me, getting to help people problem solve and then start the next chapter in their life, that's what I enjoy the most.
Thank you. Jenna, I think you were next, I believe. Oh, I think you're muted.
myself. Yeah, I feel the same way as Tracy. The reason I initially became a firefighter was because I looked at the things that I enjoyed most in life when I was in college, and then those quick years afterwards. At post-college, I ended up working for Rolling Stone magazine. I was totally unhappy, and I wanted to do this before, but my mom was like, no, her dad was a fire chief, and she's like, no, that's not for you. You have a degree and blah, blah, blah. But then I reassessed and I looked at the things that made me most happy, and it was helping people and volunteering, which firefighters always do that. They're always involved in volunteering endeavors, which I love about our department. We're all about it. And then I loved staying physically fit. So combine those two things. I love helping people. I love the diversity of our calls, going on medical calls, going on fire calls, going on technical rescue calls, whatever it is, on anybody's worst day, we're there to help them out and give 150%. So that's what I love most about our job.
Great, thank you. Mr. Morrison?
Yeah, a lot of similar answers. I love making a difference, or at least trying to, just being a voice on different issues that affect our state or our community or individuals. I get lots of different interactions with people I might not otherwise get to meet. So I like the dynamism of it. No day is ever the same. So those are the things I like.
Wonderful. Mr. Black?
We're pretty unanimous. I love, you can't work in government and not enjoy serving people. And as I already mentioned, in my role in the manager's office, fortunate I get to interact with a lot of professionals. And typically we're their last resort. If a resident has worked with a certain department and they're not happy with the result they got working with that department, they tend to escalate it up to the village manager's office. And you know, we understand that we can't make 100% of Schaumburg residents happy 100% of the time. While that would be perfect, there's always going to be conflict, and helping resolve that conflict and finding middle ground as you can, definitely one of the best parts of the job.
Great, thank you so much. We have an actual question from one of our audience members. What should students do in high school to prepare for college and find success in these fields? So we'll start right around. Tracy, you can go first.
So I'm a big believer in education, obviously. You know, I think that you should take every class that you can that's offered, that's an elective, that's something out of the box, that's something interesting. I think you should read a lot. I don't think even even today, I don't think any of us read as much as we should or as much as
Yeah.
we could. We tend to go to a TV show or some type of electronic device. I know when I was in high school, I read a lot more than I do now. Maybe I just had more free time. I don't know. But I would definitely say read a lot, study a lot, take as many hard classes as you feel capable of. I know a lot of the schools push a lot of the AP programs and things like that. I will tell you, even in my day, 30 years ago when I graduated from high school, I took every AP class that was offered at the time at Schaumburg High School. And I walked into college with 21 hours of high school credit for college. So that saved me money, that saved me time. It allowed me to transition out of college quicker, get to law school, all of those types of things. So study hard, take diverse classes, take things that are out of the box that, are not just English this and history that, take interesting things, challenge yourself. So that's my advice for high school.
Great, thank you. Jenna, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that aside from everything that Tracy said, which I of course agree with, take classes, find your interests, and go and navigate that way. I would add to all that is look into, like I said before a few moments ago, look into what you're interested in, look into what makes you happy, and because you're going to be doing this a long time, right? I come to work every day and I am truly happy to be here. I love training our guys. I love going on calls. I love the village of Schaumburg. And I am not just saying that, I really love it here. But look at what makes you happy and then maybe kind of contemplate an internship or something like that. Reach out to this. In my field, it's, a fire department internship or doing ride time. But also if you're a marketing agency, hey, I'm in college right now. Can I do an internship with you? Those things are, I know, sought after, and they're just kind of, you have to do them now. But, try a bunch and see what makes you happy, because you're going to be doing this for a long time. You want to be happy because, just have a happy life. So that's my best advice for the kids.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison?
Yeah, I guess to kind of add on to that, yeah, try a lot of different things, have different experiences, and just realize we live in a very dynamic world. The sort of things that I thought that I would be doing when I was in high school, I ended up doing a lot of different things. So having those different experiences helped me a lot, because really you just need to take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves, and the better prepared you are with a variety of things, then the more likely it is that you can adapt as the economy shifts and things like that. Let me add to that though. I think when I was in high school, and I've got 4 children myself, 2 are teenagers, and we've all been teenagers. Okay, so sometimes you just have to mature before you realize this. But if I could go back and talk to myself 30 years ago, I'd say, just understand that some of the relationships you're in might be really silly or superficial and maybe not beneficial to you long term. So be willing to listen to your elders or those who've, made mistakes and learn from them. Listen to your elders more than only your peers. And then the other thing is just realize just how superficial popular culture can be. If you really want to make a difference in the world, or if you want to be successful, just do not get so caught up with the entertainment culture, because I started to realize it's really not making me to be a better person or make a positive difference in the world. It's really fickle. And I'll leave a book recommendation out there, since we mentioned reading and reading a lot. There's a book that came out in the 1980s called Amusing Ourselves to Death. And it is still very, very relevant, maybe even more relevant today with just the constant flood of information and distractions and entertainment out there. So Amusing Ourselves to Death. You can get it at the library.
Thank you. Go ahead, Clayton. I think you're muted. Thank you.
Yeah, again, everybody said a lot of really great stuff. I mentioned during my introduction, I come from a part of the state that's very rural, nothing like Schaumburg and surrounding communities. There's so many opportunities here that if I was in high school and I was in a place like Schaumburg compared to where I originally came from, the opportunities to get out there and learn things are pretty endless. The one thing I would think of to mention too would be volunteerism. I know it's one of those things you're probably required to do in high school. You have to do so many hours, but it's a great opportunity to get involved in your local community through nonprofits. There's a lot of great nonprofits that serve the Schaumburg area. The Woodfield Area Children's Organization comes to mind, some of the area, tons of agencies out there. And even the village, we have a number of boards and commissions that we're constantly looking for younger, interesting ideas. You don't tend to seek those things out, but if you're at all interested in a career in local government, reach out to the mayor's office, reach out to anybody at Village Hall, and they'll make sure you get involved in a board or a commission or whatever the opportunity is. And there's tons of them out there.
Thank you so much. Base, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I think we do have a time for one more questions, and that's the question in numbers. Could you provide the salary information, like from entry level, Tracy, for you, like a lawyer, and mid-career and late career? For question for everyone. I think students sometimes they want to know if they are going into this career, how much they would be making right after college or some training or so.
Okay, so I would say that for a lawyer, it's a little different because we go to college for 4 years and then you graduate from college and maybe you have a bunch of debt unless your parents paid for school or you got a scholarship or something like that. So you start out real negative, unfortunately, for most people. So you graduate from college for 4 years, then you go to law school. You have to take a test to get into law school called the LSAT. Then you go to law school for 3 years. Then you graduate from law school and then you have to take a bar exam to get to be a lawyer. I mean, it's like a whole racket, right? So you want to do all that, that's great, but you're already starting somewhat from behind. So when I graduated from law school, I was 25. So a lot of my friends were already engineers and teachers and things like that. So not only were they not in debt, they were already earning a salary. I started out wanting to work at a large law firm, which pays, 6-figure salary. I did that briefly, didn't like it. Instead, I traded that in for a job as a state's attorney. Unfortunately, prosecutors' offices, public defenders' offices, public guardian offices, those kind of government agencies, you learn the most. I will stand by that statement. You learn the most. But unfortunately, they pay somewhat the least. I don't know what the going rate is right now for a state's attorney. I want to say it's probably 55 or 60,000. I could be wrong, but it's probably something like that. And that's not a great salary when you've already done college and law school. But it is a place to start. And I think it's the best place to start. It's kind of hard to hang out your own shingle at 25 when you don't know anyone or have any, background in law. So for me, it was where I made all my connections. Then I went out on my own and started, my law firm. Without getting into the long answer of it, we bill hourly, we take a retainer, and then we bill hourly. So my hourly rate is $325 an hour. So people always ask me that question. I want to answer it honestly, and that is the answer. But remember, even though I might be here 14 hours, not all 14 of those hours are billable time. So it's a little unique that way. Only a few hours a day sometimes can be billed. Not everything is billable. But I would say most lawyers do make a 6-figure salary, or some make even, quite a bit more. It depends on if you are a partner at the firm, an associate at the firm, if you own the firm, if you have ownership stock. There's a lot. It's not a short answer, unfortunately, but it can be a lucrative career, but it's also incredibly time consuming. So it's a very time dense career. So you'll put a lot of time in. That's my answer.
Thank you, Tracy. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. The session was 30 minutes, only 2 or 3 more minutes from some information from Lily. I want to thank you everyone for sharing your career information. I really realized that we had a limited amount of time today and we were not able to get to everyone's questions. If there are students that had questions that would like answered, please send them to me at my email, bsadiqu@d211.org. I would be happy to follow up with our panelists and get your question answered. Lily?
Yes, thank you. Really quick before we get off, I just entered the link for the attendance. So if everyone could please put in their information there, that would just help us for the future. And again, this doesn't stop tonight. Or if you're looking for careers, students, parents, if you're on, please know that every student in our high school is assigned a counselor. So that is a good first step for our students to start looking or exploring some further careers, come in as a family, come in as a student. That is the number one thing that I would recommend from tonight. We also have career interest surveys for our students. Those are available on all of our students' iPads through Zello. It is an app. You're able to log in, students, using your Google email. That is a great great way for you to figure out what is a career that maybe I'm interested in, or maybe I'm not sure. Where do I start? Another great place. So again, I would encourage you to make an appointment with your counselor, somebody in the student services department, where we can kind of further explore your careers. And remember, this is not the end, it's just the beginning. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Lily. Recordings of this and all of the other sessions will be uploaded and available on our website. So if you join us late or are interested in watching another session that is running concurrently, you will be able to do so. And we will work on answering all the questions submitted through the Q&A bar, and we will publish those to our website when the answers are available. Thank you to all of our panelists and our guests for joining us today. Have a wonderful rest of your night.